Got a packed Thursday show, Albie.
It's been a busy day.
Yes, it has. My goodness. Oh, what a time. Okay, first we're going to play my interview today. Although Alice was there, but she's not part of the interview.
I helped with setup and stuff, but I had other stuff going
with
on.
Elad Levy. He is an Israeli, and he is desperate to find his niece, who's named Roni Eshel. She is an IDF member. She's only 19 years old, and she's been missing since the attack. She was right near the Gaza border, near one of these military installations, and Elad Levy has been desperate for anything to get the word out, to let the world know that he's looking for her. If maybe somehow it'll reverberate, and she'll find out that people know that that they're looking for. Whatever it is, a lot of these, there's been a bunch of people, Israelis, who have been going through Bethany Mandel, friend of the show, who we love, and Bethany has been asking her friends in media to try to get some of these stories out, which of course we're happy to do. So I'm talking to other people as well to see what we can do. But this is my interview earlier with Elad Levy. Okay, we are talking with Elad Levy from Israel right now. His niece, who's a 19-year-old IDF soldier, has been missing since the attacks, and her name is Roni Eshel. And Elad, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Now, I've never quite done this before, talk to somebody in such a desperate situation. Can you go through the day of the attacks, when you found out about the attacks and when you found out that your niece was missing?
Sure. So on Saturday morning, we woke up to the sound of the sirens blowing through, I'd say, most of Israel. And, we rushed, I'd say, from our personnel, and I think all of Israelis rushed into their secured rooms, the bomb shelters. After we got out from the bomb shelters, we started to see some, live feeds of Hamas terrorists getting into the, to the villages and to the civilian villages. Our niece, Roni, we knew where she's located, near the Gaza border. And at around 9:30 a.m., she sent a text message to her mom. It was very plain and simple. Hi, Mom. I'm okay. I'm busy. And, I love you. That was the last time we heard from her.
And that's it. That was around 9:30.
That's it.
What part of the country was she in?
She was on the Gaza border. She was on the border. Yeah.
So, yeah. I've got your niece looks like any of my daughter's friends who might be singing Taylor Swift songs, and it's
exactly. She loves Taylor Swift. Yeah. She's a big fan. Yes, she's exactly like your child. Your child and your neighbor's child.
Is this your brother or sister's child?
It is my sister-in-law. It's my wife's sister's child.
Okay. Yeah. What have they been doing? Just emotionally, I cannot fathom the pain.
Look, you're right. They are devastated, completely devastated. I would say on one hand, they're up in the air, not knowing where Roni is. Where is she about now? Is she hurt? Is she? We can even say, is she alive? We don't know that. And if she's hurt, if Hamas terrorists are holding her hostage, and they've done some horrific things also.
Yes.
We've seen the pictures, we've seen the videos. So you have all these, which is, extremely devastating. At the same time, they are leaving no stone unturned to find her and to find more information.
Have you gotten any intel at all, any pieces of information as to where things might be?
The one the only piece of information that we got that what happened something between 9:30, the text, around 12, which we know that the terrorists attacked into their camp, their area. She went into a secure room with 8 other females, teenagers like her, and Hamas terrorists couldn't break in. So what they've done, like in many other places, by the way, in on Saturday, they just burned the place on the people in it.
Yes.
And we know that of the 8, it's not clear if it was 7, 8, or 9, but we know that 3 are they're alive and they're okay. Well, okay, I would say relatively they're wounded. We know that I think 1 or 2 are confirmed dead, and the others are missing.
How long has she been in the Israeli Defense Forces?
1 year. 1 year. She enlisted a year ago.
1 year. And was she enjoying her time there?
Yes. Look, military service is no fun. It's it's demanding. Obviously, it's very structured, especially for a 19 years old teenager. And but the bond that you have, and actually we have this bond with the other families. We're all in the same despair, but we're connected. We're talking to them. We're all together with them, and so I think that's something that you take, and
What would you like the world to know about Roni, about her personality or dreams or?
Dreams are words to conquer the world. The world was just up in front of her. She was a joyful girl. She's very smart, very happy, very funny. So that's Roni. That's who she is.
Do you have faith that the government is doing everything it can? Certainly, they're taking care of business. It seems like in the Gaza Strip, but do you have faith that they're doing everything they can?
Yes, absolutely. We have faith in the government, and we have actually faith not just in the government. We have faith in the U.S. government. We have faith in the EU. We have faith in the UN. We have faith in all the humanitarian organizations around the world that they're all going to stand up with us, and we'll call in demand. I'm not going to say demand and force the Hamas terrorist group to release all the kidnapped and all of them now, today. So that's the one thing that we're certain that will happen, because this is the time when if you have values, any human values, this is what you need to do. And I can use your stand to call to the entire world. I know we're talking in Connecticut, but still, whoever hears this message, this is I call them for action and immediate action. Everyone we share the same values of human rights and just human dignity and very, very basic rights.
Yes.
That's what we need to do, because we're dealing with ISIS. This is not Hamas. Hamas is terminology. It's terminology. This is ISIS. This is Nazis.
Yes. How do you, or let me ask you, just emotionally, and I think that we have many parents listening, how do you keep yourself from thinking the worst? Or do you dwell on the fact that she could be gone?
First, I would say that we do, personally, I can speak on myself. Obviously, I speak with my wife, with her brother, we speak with the parents. But I would say that personally, we dwell into that sometimes. I personally don't let myself, suck into it. And what keep us, for me, working alive and doing, this interview, and doing others,
yes,
is that we know that we are not going to leave any stone turned to find her. And we are doing this is the right, I don't want to say in a fight. This is, it's just, pure evil that we're facing.
yes.
And we're going to do everything that we can do to wipe it off and to demolish it.
Do you fear for Israel? Do you fear that Hezbollah or other Iranian-backed forces will start to pour in as well?
I fear for Hezbollah. No, we don't fear. We don't fear for Israel. Look, if Hezbollah is going to get in, it's going to get a little bit more difficult. Maybe a little bit more difficult. So we're going to wipe them off as well. And this is the situation where you see exactly where do you stand, where people stand. All the nice words. These are actions. This is if you go back to 1940, you knew exactly who are you for, who are you against.
Mm.
This is the same situation. There are Nazis and there are the rest of the world. Nazis and the rest of the world. We are the rest of the world. We are the democracies. They are the Nazis. Hezbollah, Iran, Hamas, ISIS, all of them. Whoever saw the videos came out of Saturday, and the acts and the sheer brutality. I don't know how much you saw and how much your listeners know about it, and I don't want to get into too much specifics.
Yes.
But I can tell you that they found little children beheaded. They found families burnt in their homes. They burned families in their homes alive.
Yes.
In the music festival that President Biden spoke about, what they've done, they rounded up people, like in the Holocaust, by the way, in the open field, and just slaughtered them. But they slaughtered them so badly, we can't recognize some of them, or many of the bodies. Vicious, pure vicious and evil.
Yes, and we've heard about the rapes, all of the mutilations.
Also, mutilations, rapes. I didn't even get to that.
In these animals who are doing this are Facebooking family members, etc. It is so bad over here, Elad, that our news people on TV here in America are having trouble reading the news because it's so shocking what's going on.
Yes.
So her name is Roni Eshel. We hope to God that she is okay and that you guys get her back. I'll tweet out some pictures that you guys can see. She looks like my daughter's friends or your daughter's friends. You should be riding a bike and hanging out and eating ice cream. But she is. But these monsters have her right now. Any parting thoughts that you'd like our listeners to know, Elad?
I think I've said it all, but I think the most important thing, we have our personal tragedy, but I do think that people really need to understand that these Hamas terrorists are exactly like the Nazis. It's ISIS, and this is the time where we need to just demolish them. And I hope that obviously the U.S. supports us unconditionally, and we appreciate that. And we need to make sure that the rest of the world will support us as well at the same level. They do support us, but we want the same support.
Absolutely. He is Elad Levy. We give all of our love to you and your family, and hope for the safe return of Roni, and bless you guys and bless Israel.
Thank you. And bless America as well. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So there you go. Just doing a quick search. I'm just glad that more and more names are coming up of people who have passed away, including the armed services, the IDF. And so far, her name has not come up in a search. So it's a weird thing. I'm doing the Twitter searches and hoping I'm not getting into other than him doing these interviews. So it was a very interesting, just forensically to talk to somebody. I've interviewed a lot of people, but this talking to him is the first time ever, I think, that there's a huge responsibility. You know what I mean? This is no effing around, because there's a human life there. It was. I don't know how to articulate it really. It's just that this is heavy, serious stuff.
Yeah.
And this is real life ramification stuff. This is, and so it was, at any time while talking to him, he could get a message on WhatsApp saying that they just found her and she's dead, or
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At any time. So
Yeah.
Well,
and it's fascinating too because it is so human and horrifying, but it's also just one tiny slice of the overall horror of the thing.
Oh, yes.
It's like one tiny little facet of the prism of all of it, because it's all so terrible.
It is also so terrible. And
it's not like one of the flashiest, stories out there, one of the like most sensationalized, but it's just like a tiny little window into how many families are going through that right now. I think they're up to like 1,200 confirmed dead in Israel.
Yes.
And, lots more. So, and I don't know. It's interesting because I think that some of those more sensationalized reports have gotten like more of the attention, but, military service is mandatory for everybody in Israel. So like lots of people, there was some of the like more anti-Israel people online were being like, oh, those aren't civilians, they're IDF. Well, yeah, everyone's required to serve in the IDF in Israel, right? So like,
yes.
So, everybody potentially is, but it's also interesting because, I think that sort of the civilian deaths are what kind of gets people very worked up, because clearly that's just like pure terrorism.
Yes.
But people forget too that for the Hamas people to get to the civilian deaths, a lot of times they had already gone through and killed a bunch of people, in the bases and other places at the borders.
Yes.
In order to get through, because I've even seen some people saying, some of the people who are more dubious about the online stories saying stuff along the lines of like, oh, well, how could they get across the border? It's such a heavily fortified border. Israel doesn't let anything across. They have such a powerful military, etc. It wasn't easy. It took a lot of people and a lot of planning to get across that border. And they did completely take a bunch of the bases. That was one of the things, if you read the actual accounts of the people who escaped from that music festival, is a lot of them went to a base that was quite nearby. And the base had already been taken over by Hamas at that point in time. So, this was a coordinated attack. Another thing that I read online that I don't know, I know nobody knows yet the full details of like how this was carried out in the strategy. But one of the things that's starting to come out that is sure to impact relations with Israel for a long, long time is that it's looking more and more like they had a lot of help from people who had work permits to work in Israel. So Israel lets a lot of people in from the quote unquote open air prison to come work in Israel. And that a lot of people who had those work permits to come into Israel and work contributed a lot of the intelligence and the logistics to being able to do this.
Some people in the kibbutzes had said they recognized some of the people as people who worked there, some of the attackers as people who worked there.
Which is shocking and horrifying on its own, but also I think helps explain, because I think, one of the things that makes this unbelievable to people, whether it's unbelievable in a way like you actually aren't believing the official narrative, or whether it's just unbelievable in a way like I can't believe this happened, is that Israel is such a heavily armed state, and such a that border in particular is so heavily militarized, right? And so it's like, how could this happen? And I think as we get more insight into that, more of those questions are going to be answered. But that's we probably just need a new cord for that. It's the power cord that's the problem on there. But I think that answers a lot of those questions for people, is if it's people who are working across the border and were able to supply a lot of that intelligence, that makes a lot more sense. But they did take out bases. This wasn't, it was targeted towards civilians, clearly, but in order to get to the civilians, they had to go through a lot of IDF and bases and stuff, which which also resulted in a lot of human tragedy. I mean, that's human tragedy that's more a part of normal warfare.
Yes.
But still also hugely tragic when you're talking in the scheme of this conflict that like didn't need to happen.
It's okay. So there was also a interview Clarissa Ward did of CNN with the father of a little girl she was visiting somebody for a birthday party at one of the kibbutzes. Have you listened to this interview?
I have not, but I've heard about it.
So this is maybe the video and the audio is maybe the most powerful thing I've ever possibly heard.
And listen to his reaction to that news, Wolf.
Let me rewind just a little bit.
I won't pull it yesterday. Found out after 2 days of waiting for answers, and he described to us the agonizing moment. After 2 days of waiting for answers, he was rescued. He finally found out that his 8-year-old daughter, Emily, had been killed. And listen to his reaction to that news, Wolf.
They just said, we found Emily. She's dead. And I went, yes! I went, yes, and smiled. Because that is the best news of the possibilities that I knew. That was the best possibility that I was hoping for. She was either dead or in Gaza. And if you know anything about what they do to people in Gaza, that is worse than death. That is worse than death. The way they treat you. They'd have no food, they'd have no water. She'd be in a dark room filled with Christ knows how many people and terrified every minute, hour, day, and possible years to come. So death was a blessing, an absolute blessing.
Pretty incredible, huh? And that goes right to what we were talking about, that feeling, and I think that's the feeling that Roni's parents and family is feeling too. Mm-hmm. Just this feeling, and you, as a parent, you have this all the time, but never realized like this. The nightmare is that the child is suffering or scared, and there's nothing you can do about it. And holy hell, I can just imagine. I can imagine. I can't imagine. Imagine that you're like Roni's parents right now, and what do? Make freaking dinner? Have microwave burritos? Like, what the fuck makes sense to do?
Right.
Well, you don't know. It's just like it's the worst nightmare realized. Mm-hmm. And it's remarkable. Which is another reason why we've got a problem in this country, that there are so many people so enthusiastically pro-Palestine in huge numbers all over this country. Mm-hmm. Before the day of freaking jihad tomorrow or whatever that is. I think that there is going to be some crime tomorrow. A lot of hate crime. These college campuses where they've got all the DEI offices, where the frick is anybody? Hello? They're celebrating a terrorist attack saying that Jews should be exterminated on your quad. Does anybody care? Is anybody saying anything?
No, the DEI officers are for it.
Well, that's the truth, isn't it? Freaking amazing. By the way, the union Starbucks workers are voicing solidarity with Palestine after the Hamas attack. But here's another one. Here's George Mason University.
They got tanks, we got hang gliders. They got tanks, we got hang gliders. Glory to the resistance fighters. Glory to the resistance fighters.
To be clear, the people in the hang gliders are the ones who came and killed a bunch of people who were just at a concert.
Yes, and children that did the awful things. And they're saying glory to them. These are just students. There are a few hundred people gathered here.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Back, hold that call!
So apparently, Alice, it's just going on the theme of what we've been talking about. Apparently, during COVID, everybody went in their basement and became radicalized and anti-Semitic. It's part of the bigger colonization thing, but these kids are damn near violent. They're certainly applauding murder, rape, genocide. They're applauding this, a mini Holocaust.
Yeah.
What the frig in colleges?
Well, right. And I mean, not that it's even like worth engaging with people who are chanting like this, but like, to be clear, there are a lot of Jews in Israel who whose families mostly a few generations ago moved there from other parts of the world, but like almost half the Israeli population is Mizrahi Jews, which are like ones who live in the Middle East already, that were already there. Like they're not from somewhere else.
Yeah, but you don't have to even make this
but
case.
Yeah, but in case people are confused by the colonialism
a
thing,
horrific massacre. Here's the middle of Paris, and this place has thousands of people. Oh, they're thrilled, having a good old time. Here is Indianapolis. Indianapolis. They do the from the river to the sea stuff as well. Here's in Philly.
I think that we should all give an applaud right now to Hamas for a job well done. When they woke up in the morning and they found the field hands in the house with a knife ready to cut their fucking throats.
Okay.
Yeah, cut their fucking throats, yeah.
This is what you guys did with Black Lives Matter and all these DEI offices and everything. Congratulations.
Black Lives Matter has weighed in, Alice. How strong do you think the condemnation of Palestine is going to be, of Hamas is going to be?
Not strong.
Well, let's listen in here to see for ourselves.
This is the last post I'm making directed at willfully ignorant people. These two flags
U.S. Israel
are fascism in 2023. The Israeli government is a fascist police state. The United States is a fascist police state. I have solidarity with Palestinians as a Black American living under a fascist police state. The U.S. police are trained by Israeli police on how to brutalize Black people. Look it up. Just look it up. And it makes sense that the average white liberal American would have solidarity with Israel because liberals, Democrats, conservatives, Republicans are fascists. Full stop. Hope this helps.
It did help in a way.
Yeah, it's very clarifying. Very clarifying. You and I talked last night about that clip. You said you had played it on the radio yesterday.
With the dad?
No, the girl at the university with Horowitz.
Oh, yes, from 2010, yeah.
And that's 13 years old now, that clip, but
oh, she's probably a dean of something somewhere.
Oh, I assume so. But he was doing it before it was popular, talking at a university and getting questions from hostile, insane university students. And she goes on and on about Hamas and how Israel is XYZ, all this stuff. And he finally just asked her, he says, they say, the leader of Hamas says that he wants all the Jews to, or maybe he's talking about Hezbollah. He might have been talking about Hezbollah. In the clip.
I think he was talking about Hamas, actually.
But he said, they say that they want all the Jews in Israel so it's easier so they don't have to go hunt us down outside in the rest of the world. Agree or disagree? And she says, agree.
Without missing a beat.
Yeah, she doesn't even hesitate.
This is obviously an American girl who has a Muslim garb on, whatever.
Right.
But
she wants to kill all the Jews. So, I mean, which is a shocking thing to hear. And, I mean, it's sort of weird. I grew up in a town that had a lot of Jewish families in it. And so maybe it's like different in some parts of the country, or where maybe like there's not as active a Jewish population, but it like I've never encountered anti-Semitism like to the level that I see it now. But
And
like,
this isn't like Jewish people are cheap, like trope stuff. This isn't whatever
no,
other.
it's not jokes. It's like
This is
like no, we
excellent.
actually
We had a great weekend. We've massacred a bunch of women and children. Let's celebrate.
yeah.
This is very real.
United States, our responsibility is to the stability and the security of the region. That means being able to support, yes, Israel in its defensive capacities, right, in its ability in that context. But it also means that the United States has a responsibility to ensure accountability to human rights, to prevent the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, and to ensure that horrors do not happen in the names of victims who do not want their tragedy used to justify further violence and injustice.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's astonishing too because of what you talked about with Elad in that interview as well, where he says, this is Israel's on the side of human rights here, of human decency and democracy and civilization, essentially. He didn't use that word, but I'll go ahead and use the word civilization. For her to invoke human rights when it comes to talking about Gaza, who puts their own headquarters in a hospital, who makes sure to keep their own children in buildings where Israel's warned them to get children and civilians out of because Israel's going to strike. What other war on the planet does the country bombing you let you know where not to be if you don't want to be bombed?
Yeah,
right.
no.
Like, and
Well, we're gonna
Hamas
get into
deliberately puts their own kids there. This is not. They're not for human rights. They're not for anybody's rights. They're not good for the people in the Gaza Strip either. They want their own kids dead as much as they want the Israeli kids dead. And it's, I think about this sometimes because somebody asked me, like, do you think that Hamas and these terrorists and people like that, like, do they hate, like, Christians and other people as much as they hate Jewish people? And, I mean, well, I think they have a special thing about Jewish people. Most Islamist terrorism affects other Muslims more than it does anybody else on the planet.
Well, yes, but
they kill more other Muslims than they kill Jews or Christians. They hate everybody. They're anti-human, anti-civilization, anti-life, and
right.
and
There is
they're
this
anti-human rights.
Yeah, there's this very viral video going around showing a Hindu guy talking to a Muslim who says, "Yeah, I want all the Christians and the Hindus dead, and everybody else is like." Okay, but this girl here, who's a Jewish student at the UW campus, who saw the pro-Hamas rally where they're all applauding, she is hysterical in crying because she's Jewish.
They want our people dead. They want us killed.
Yeah, so where's the DEI? Where's the protection for her? Where's the violence? How come when Michael
Where's the
Knowles goes anywhere
anti-free
near that
speech
campus,
people?
it's
Yeah.
violence?
How is it allowed? How are you allowing this? Why aren't you putting us down? They want us dead.
Some of these Jewish students very likely have relatives who are over in Israel who just endured a
Of
massacre,
course.
and they're having a pep rally to celebrate it.
Please end it, please.
Another guy with a flag is approaching them. What a pussy this guy is.
Why can't they just go up there?
It's incredible. Incredible. Okay. All right. Well, there we go. I guess that's what we want. There was a great, freaking great debate with Cornel West, who's been a long time anti-Israel guy, and Dershowitz, who obviously is a pro-Israel guy, on Hannity last night. I want to dip in for a little bit of this.
Hamas that murdered innocent people?
That's what I said, though, brother.
Okay.
That's what I
they
said.
are largely right, but lacking nuance.
No, I didn't say lack nuance. That's the title of the piece.
Okay.
My actual words were, I'll just be very honest.
I got it here in front of me.
The words do it. The words were that Israel's policies of war crimes and collective punishment against Palestinians
I'll read
set
it
a
to you.
context,
Israel and the United States
Hamas
are
must take
primarily
responsibility
responsible.
for killing innocent people. Anybody who kills innocent people are engaging in barbaric acts.
You said
no matter
Israel,
who they
hang
are,
on, let me
what
quote
color,
you.
what nation, and so forth.
Israel and the United States are primarily
And the United States has supported and enabled.
You explain to this audience. I want you to explain. How is Israel and the United States responsible for beheading 40 children? How?
I'm talking about the context. 545 Palestinian children died in August 2004. Not one American said a word. I believe a Palestinian baby has the same value as an Israeli baby. So when you have that kind of vicious hatred and revenge, you get response of hatred and revenge. They are all wrong. They're all war crimes. They're all to be condemned. But you cannot simply look at this particular moment without the larger backdrop of an ugly occupation and the ugly attacks chronically against Palestinians.
Those are not your words. Largely right. Israel and the United States are primarily responsible for this attack. Professor Dershowitz.
Well, I complained when Palestinian children were killed, but I explained why they were killed. Here is one of the leaders of Hamas. For the Palestinian people, death has become an industry. The elderly excel at this, and so do the children. This is why we have formed human shields of the women and the children. Hamas is the ones responsible for the killing of Palestinian children. Also, Hamas has a term. It's called the CNN strategy. And the CNN strategy is induce Israel into killing Palestinian children by using them as human shields. Then parade the bodies out on CNN, and you'll see what happens. People like Cornel West will engage in crocodile tears, blame it on Israel, when the entire blame is on the Palestinians, Hamas, for using their children as human shields, and then using their children as shields to permit the killing of Israeli children.
What is Hamas's charter?
I have the same outrage when Palestinian babies are killed, when Jewish babies or Israeli babies. I want you to have the same indignation when Palestinians are killed.
Not when they're killed. Not when they're killed by Palestinians. You can't make a moral comparison. When Nazi kids were killed in the bombings of Dresden, I didn't have the same comparison when Jewish kids were put in gas chambers and crematoriums. You're a professor of theology. Don't you understand the moral difference between deliberately murdering a kid and having collateral damage because there are human shields? You're running for president of the United States. What would you do? Wait, let me tell you. Let me ask the question. Let me ask the question.
Okay.
What would you do if terrorists were firing at American children in America, and the terrorists were hiding behind Palestinian children? Would you allow the killing of Americans to continue, or would you go and get the terrorists, even if it meant possibly collateral damage on Palestinians? What would you do?
I'll tell you exactly what I would do. First, truth and morality tend to be two casualties in any context of war. I would want to tell the American people the truth. I would tell them what the context is, how we found ourselves in this situation. I would not jump for a military invasion and a genocidal attack on a
during the attack, Cornel, what would you do?
Where are they supposed to go? Where are they supposed to go? Now, this is like Warsaw, 1943. Where do they go?
Where do they go?
Yes.
Let me tell you where they go. They go to the UN.
UN
is keeping
from Gaza to Geneva?
They go to no. The UN has places in Gaza. They go to the Rafah crossing.
11 UN people have been killed in the last few days.
They go to Egypt.
Isn't it great that he can't answer the question? He knows that there's an answer to the question, but
of course
he's a grifter, because anybody around these things with half a brain is a grifter if they're on that side of it.
Of course, there's only two options. You are either a fool or you are deliberately lying if you believe the stuff coming out of Hamas. And, like you say, this is not limited to, to other parts of the world. There's going to be activity tomorrow, even if it's one-offs, because there's already activity now. Like you saw that girl crying on the college campus. Did you read the Columbia story?
Oh, yeah. Somebody got hit with a stick.
Yeah. And this was a weird story to parse because there's also a gender issue in the story that made it confusing to read at first. But this was an Israeli student who was assaulted at Columbia University. So, even the Fox News headline, amid tensions with Hamas. An Israeli student at Columbia University in New York was assaulted with a stick outside the library. When officers arrived, they learned the man was involved in an argument with Maxwell Friedman of Brooklyn over flyers that he and friends had posted with names and pictures of Israeli hostages captured by Hamas. So both of these people had been a part of a group of people putting up posters of the Israeli captives.
Yes,
but one
I
of
saw
them,
people tearing them down today.
But one of them, named Maxwell Friedman, came back later, who identifies as female, came back later covered up with, quote, her face covered up with like a terrorist scarf set up, and started ripping down the posters. So one of the other people who was in the group who'd been putting up the posters came over to Friedman and said, like, what are you doing? And this dude who pretends to be a woman who's also pro-Hamas started beating him up with a stick.
Yeah.
Including breaking his hand.
Well,
and
let me just ask you a
now he's
question.
like afraid to go back on the campus.
Let me ask you a question.
But like,
if you had a Jewish daughter, would you let her go to college tomorrow?
Absolutely not. If my daughter were Jewish and at an American university, I'd be like, hide in your dorm tomorrow. Like, I mean, what are you supposed to do?
Well, also, I want a refund because you had a terrorist celebration in the middle of your...
Yeah.
If you guys had the Klan there having a celebration, would you not stop that either? Because these guys are like the Klan, just much more deadly.
Yeah. They actually have active members who actually believe this stuff in the United States in 2023, unlike the KKK, which is not a real thing anymore.
Right. Douglas Murray took to the BBC to talk about the media's refusal to call Hamas terrorists.
The siege of Gaza, cutting off all supplies of fuel, the last electricity plant, that's gone. There is no electricity, there is no running water, there is no food going in, there are no other fuel supplies going in. Borders closed with Egypt as well. Bizarrely little criticism of Egypt for that, interestingly. Is that, and while raining down missiles on buildings which they know are going to kill civilians, we know hundreds and hundreds of civilians have already died, many of them children, is that a reasonable, proportionate and moral response by Israel?
There is some deep perversion in Britain whenever Israel is involved in a conflict, and it is the word you just used, proportionate, proportionality. Only Britain is really obsessed with this. I've heard it for the last few days incessantly. Proportionality in conflict rarely exists. But if we were to decide that we should have this fetish about proportionality, then that would mean that in retaliation for what Hamas did in Israel on Saturday, Israel should try to locate a music festival in Gaza, for instance, and good luck with that, should try to find a music festival in Gaza and rape precisely the number of women that Hamas raped on Saturday. Kill precisely the number of young people that Hamas killed on Saturday. They should find a town of exactly the same size as a town like Sderot, where I've been many times myself, and make sure they go to door and kill precisely the correct number of babies that Hamas killed in Sderot on Saturday, and shoot in the head precisely the same number of old age pensioners as were shot in Sderot on Saturday, just to choose one town. Proportionality in conflict is a joke. And it's a very strange British concept which we've had, that only the Israelis in a conflict, when they are attacked, are expected to have precisely the proportionate response.
Yeah, and obviously, and thank you to him for saying it, and thank you to Dershowitz earlier for saying it. There's obviously, it's not saying that one child's life is worth more than another child's life, but there's clearly a moral difference between firebombing Dresden as part of the war and children being in some of the buildings and deliberately putting children in gas chambers, or, there's no comparison. And normal civilized countries, by the way, think about like Britain during World War II. When London was being bombed all the time, what did British people do with their children?
Put them in the subways?
They sent them away.
Oh, yes, the countryside.
They sent them away to the countryside. Yeah. They sent them away to the United States. So much so that it's like a feature of a ton of children's books of that era, including like the Narnia series and everything else. But, and a lot of them went away to stay with American. They didn't put their kids like out in the building and then cry that the children got bombed, you know, because it was a war crime. It's not a war crime in the sense that like concentration camps are a war crime, in the sense that murdering civilians and using rape as a weapon of war are war crimes against civilians. You know, completely different thing. And the media's like total blindness and willingness to like prop up this straw man, like, what, you don't think Palestinian babies are just as nice babies as Israeli babies? Like,
I know. Let's hear. This is a commentator going back at him.
I'm going to challenge you on that, Douglas, because I do think when we had, you know, the invasions of Afghanistan and of Iraq, a lot of people were discussing, Afghanistan had huge numbers of countries involved, Iraq less so, obviously, but there was still discussion about whether or not, with the number of civilian deaths, that this was proportionate to the threat as perceived by America, by other countries.
We didn't say that the death toll in Afghanistan had to be precisely the death toll, for instance, in the Twin Towers in New York. We didn't take that view. By the way, always has to be said, the difference between the Western way of war and the Hamas terrorist way of war is that their objective is to kill civilians. The objective of Hamas is to kill innocent people. The objective in conflict of the United States, the United Kingdom, Israel and other civilized democracies is to kill as few innocent people as possible. It cannot be said enough that Israel tries to use the IDF to protect its citizenry. Hamas uses the citizenry to try to protect Hamas. Israel precisely uses precision-guided missiles in order to try to limit civilian casualties. But I have no doubt that after the atrocities of the last week, the appetite of the Israeli public and military and politicians to continue this precision game will, of course, change.
This is Kirby being asked an interesting question by James Rosen, who we love, obviously.
James, okay, thank you very much, Karine, and thank you, Admiral. 2 questions on the Mideast crisis. 27 Americans killed is a very large number. That is larger than the number.
That's the current American death toll from Hamas.
Americans who were killed by terrorists during our withdrawal from Afghanistan, larger than the number of Americans killed at the USS Cole, larger than the number of Americans killed at Benghazi or beheaded by ISIS. And I believe it's accurate to say that after all of those events, direct U.S. military action was ordered by the Commander-in-Chief. 27 Americans killed. Why is it the posture of the Biden administration to just let Israel handle this job, in essence, instead of U.S. forces going in and getting the guys that killed our people?
James, we will do, as Jake said, everything we can to get those American hostages home with their families. We recognize that they are not the only people being held hostage. Other nationalities are included in that group. We don't have enough information right now to make a policy decision about how to do it. So I can appreciate the sense of urgency in your question. Believe me, we share it. But we aren't going to act one way or another until we have enough information to act upon.
Great question. It was dodged, but still.
Yeah.
And let's see, it might have been one other thing I wanted to hit.
Before we go to the back to Ebony Alerts.
Oh yeah, thank you. Oh, Alice, thank you so much for reminding me. Oh yeah, there's somebody reminded us on Twitter about AOC was crying because Congress didn't vote to defund the Iron Dome. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten about that. Okay, so yes, let's go back to this story about the Ebony Alerts.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about it yesterday. I didn't know that there was more to the story, or if I did, maybe I missed it. But this is the special Amber Alerts just for black people in California.
Yes.
Yes, to get special ones. And Matt Walsh today on his show, and credit to him, played a news package about this. I didn't know. Did we talk about the fact that it doesn't stop at Ebony Alerts?
Like they have other types?
There's more alerts. This is fantastic. Listen to this.
Okay.
On New tonight, Governor Newsom signed a law that can help track down young people of color who have disappeared. Tonight, we're getting answers on how the new Ebony Alerts will work and who can benefit from them. California now has a new tool to help find missing Black youth. Amber Alerts have been around for 2 decades, and since that time, more than 370 children and at-risk individuals have been located.
Time is of the essence when it comes to an actual alert.
But some critics say African Americans are often overlooked by the notification system.
You see the difference of when white girls go missing and Black girls go missing. The sense of urgency is not there.
African Americans, whether
Doesn't
they're
it go to the
children or
same
young
people?
adults, are.
Doesn't it go to the same people when they do Amber Alerts? Are they putting in, by the way, this is a Black kid, so don't pay as much attention to this one?
Now, I think the sense of urgency is probably there, but I think there's probably a pattern that's happening with some of these Black kids who are missing that is unique. I'll just leave that there.
Often listed as runaways.
State Senator Stephen Bradford is the author of a new law that creates ebony alerts for a community disproportionately impacted by missing youth.
The African American young individuals make up almost 40% of those individuals who come up missing.
It's going to put significant change in how we react.
Barry Axios with Voice of the Youth says many young women who vanish end up being victims of sex trafficking.
Here in Sacramento, especially, a lot of our girls get exploited.
In addition to Amber Alerts,
Okay, here we go. Ready? In addition to Amber Alerts, are you ready for this, House?
Ready.
California also has blue alerts for suspects who attack a law enforcement officer, silver alerts for missing seniors
Those
and
we
people
have
with
too.
disabilities,
Silver alerts.
and feather alerts for missing indigenous people. So how is an ebony alert different?
Expanding the age from 12 to 25, because right now, a Amber Alert is for 17 years or younger.
Okay. All right.
Let's
So
do this for a second because Matt Walsh has he enjoys this for a second.
I wanted you to hear all that because there's a lot going on here. Starting with the fact that California already apparently has something called feather alerts for Indians. And now they're adding ebony alerts to the mix. Because naturally, when you think of Black people, you think of the word ebony. Just like feathers come to mind when you're talking about Native Americans. Now, I suppose there are probably more stereotypical and insulting names they could have come up with, but these are still pretty bad. And for the record, I had to double check that news clip to make sure it wasn't satire, make sure this wasn't some like way too on the nose Babylon Bee skit, but it's real. They really have feather alerts out west for missing Indians. So people in California will be sleeping or watching a football game or drinking some zesty craft beer. Then they'll get a feather alert on their phones and they're expected to, I guess, drop everything they're doing and scramble to find some missing indigenous person once they see a feather alert pop up. That's a real thing that happens in California, at least since last year, when feather alerts were first implemented. And this didn't strike anyone in California as being completely and totally absurd, apparently. We can speculate as to why that might be. Maybe a lot of Berkeley grads honestly believe that white supremacist cowboys are still out there tormenting the indigenous peoples at every turn. Whatever the case, they do indeed have feather alerts in California, and they're not joking about it. This is serious business. Now, given that simple, if incredible fact, you have to wonder why California authorities haven't deployed or maybe they eventually will deploy a whole assortment of other stereotypical alerts for every conceivable ethnicity under the sun. I mean, at this point, why not keep going? They have an alert that's tailor-made for Indians. Why stop there? Possibilities are endless. They could have a General So's alert for missing Asians, for example. They could implement a sombrero alert for Hispanics, a leprechaun alert for missing Irish Americans. Of course, the left doesn't care about two of those three groups, so this probably wouldn't happen. But given that they're now embracing every stereotype imaginable in their quest to be anti-racist, it's not hard to picture something like this down the line.
Well, there you go. I very much enjoyed it. I thought you would too, Albie. I was thinking of you.
Thank you. I did. It's a good one. I think I said almost that same thing about I kept checking the URL to make sure I was on a real news website when I was reading the Ebony Alert story. Because
So we're all supposed to pretend like feather alerts. And first of all, none of them work. So the system doesn't work anyway, but because there's somebody found that they had another caught another one inequity, which is probably, as Matt Walsh said, to the fault that many Black fathers are missing, not that the kids are missing. Probably. Another thing, because the many in these marginalized communities are not living life correctly for whatever reason. Redlining. Okay, it's me. I did it.
And people in some of these marginalized communities are less likely for a variety of reasons to go to the authorities with information that would be helpful when somebody is missing.
Right. Why would that be? I don't understand. Huh.
I know.
That?
Indeed.
That's what those...
But I wanted to say one more thing on that, and now it's gone over. I know what I wanted to say on it, which is that alert fatigue is like a real phenomenon too, which is the thing where like the more you have stuff going off and giving you warnings and alerts and beeping at you, the less you pay attention to any of it.
I don't know if you're too young, but do you remember those car alarms? And you hit the clicker thing. It was in the early 90s. But when first they had them, everybody would run out to see their car being stolen. If it was being stolen, then they would always go off everywhere, and people just stopped caring.
Nobody hears a car alarm and assumes a car is being stolen anymore. But, I mean, like, it's a huge problem, for example, in the medical industry, because all the computer systems give you warnings and stuff all the time.
I know. I know it.
So
yeah.
It's a really big issue because they try and make all the systems like automatically warn you if you've like prescribed too many weeks of something or if somebody's blood pressure is outside of certain, and like they're just, the doctors and nurses are so used to like clicking through all the alerts that pop up that like, I mean, like, I've seen it at our pediatrician's office where they're like, oh, don't pay attention to that one. Don't pay attention to that one. That's just warning you this. Just ignore. And, like, it's a huge problem because then on the off chance there's actually an alert that means something important, it's very easy to get missed because they're so accustomed to just clicking out of everything. But that's a real phenomenon throughout things. The more my phone goes off with alerts for apparently missing Black 25-year-olds, which like why it needs to go up to age 25 anyway is like crazy.
It's rather insulting, isn't it?
Like,
you managed to get yourself kidnapped? You went in the van for the candy? Really?
Well, that just goes back to
you in law school?
These aren't really kidnappings.
No, of course they're never that.
But like, the more alerts go off, the less likely I am to assume that there's any kind of kidnapping happening or anything that I should be looking out for.
Right.
Because they just are sending me an alert for everything now.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, I see it in relatives who have done long hospital stays. All sorts of stuff happening, and the nurse just walks in there without even like turning around, and it's gone.
Clear.
And for them, it's like they've jerry-rigged a more efficient process. So like whatever.
Yeah.
What is the hot sauce?
The hot sauce is the Chelsea Fire Wicked hot sauce.
Oh.
And they bring us the Chelsea Fire Wicked hotline.
So that fly went from Mike Pence's head all the way to Australia and ended up on Menner's Live on the KMS network, and then back to Newbury and ended up on the Burn Barrel. Man, what a absolute popular fly this is.
He was in his glory last night because that you guys can see that star light that's on the overhead shot, I think. He was in there. I haven't seen that Menner's one. I got to finish Kirk with Portnoy yesterday. Portnoy's so interesting. It's a fascinating. Did you hear any of it?
That one with Kirk and Portnoy?
Yeah.
I did not see that.
So he's talking about buying the $42 million.
Because I was on Twitter.
He's talking about buying the $42 million house,
and
he's not sure. He bought it off market at whatever price the seller offered him. And he doesn't know much about the house, and he doesn't know much. He put $20 million down. He doesn't know what the monthly payments are going to be. It's like it is such a gonzo way of going into buying a house, but I'm all for it.
I want to be able to buy a house in that way someday, because that's not what it's like when we buy a house.
If I went to a realtor on Nantucket,
would
they show me a $45 million house, or would they just notice telltale signs about me that this?
There's a lot more of the person from the mortgage underwriter shaking their head at us as they find out more information.
Yeah, Tom, sometimes
Replica.
They hit, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're queued up correctly. Sometimes they're not. Well, in your case, oftentimes they're not.
Well.
And I know that you say that you're a fat.
Yes.
But you're not all that fat anymore.
Thank you, Replica.
So maybe, just spitballing here, instead of taking a 57-mile walk and staring at deer and everything else in nature, you could take, well, I don't know, let's say a 10-mile walk and get your ass in the studio and do a little show prep and not leave it all on Albie because she does too much as it is. She's a very busy woman. She has a job. She has all the kids to deal with.
Yes.
She's got a pregnant belly going on. You need to start putting in your fair share of shit, Tom. Just saying.
So let me say this.
There's some truth
there really is, because today I didn't really walk at all, but like that's 3 hours of walking yesterday. That there's probably something else I could be doing. No doubt about that. That queuing up was not even, I had just forgotten to even try to queue it up. So I was just hoping the timeline was correct and it would either go flawlessly correct and a wonderful nothing but net shot, or it would be a total disaster and demoralize the planet, which it did. That was awful. But yes, I think there's something to that, to the show prep. I have been getting more cuts again, as a matter of fact.
Hey, quick question. Do you guys have any Burn Barrel merch, or are you ever considering putting out merch? I definitely would love to have a Burn Barrel coffee cup. Or
Steve.
We do have a merch
In
store.
the name of God, Alice Shattuck. No, that is you dropping the ball on this. You were queen of the merch.
BurnBarrelPodcast.com. Hit shop. There's merch.
Yes, there's merch. My goodness, Alice, you haven't told anybody there's merch? There's merch. It's made by some slave colony in Southeast Asia somewhere, but the shirts are pretty good.
That's not true. It's as Dave Cullinane likes to, extol the virtues of. It's like made to order, like on-demand printing. So it's all. We don't have the T-shirts here in the house, like in a box, and I'm gonna pack it up and send it to you. They make them on demand. So. But
yeah, it's made in Dover, Massachusetts.
No, they're printed. No, they are printed in the USA.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, the shirts, they import the shirt. I think they're like
there's a
Gildan
slave involved somewhere else.
or Fruit of the Loom T-shirt. They're like a regular brand of T-shirt that gets printed on, but you buy it and they print it. And their printing facilities are in the United States. But yeah, we have several nice shirts, including ones with little Jerry Callahan, our chicken, on them.
It's my favorite shirt. The Jerry Callahan shirts are my favorite shirt.
I have Step On Wife merchandise.
You were wearing that
I was
today.
wearing my Step On Wife
looks good for
sweatshirt
ladies,
today.
actually. The all-you-can-eat logo shirts are great.
Oh, did you do those actually?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
we need to clean it up and get rid of some of the like older in-joke stuff that's on there.
I have or those are the classics. Let's not get rid of them until everybody has a chance.
Some of them.
And I have a
but like your Jay-Z ain't just Beyonce's husband.
Yeah, what was that from?
Oh, Crazy ain't just Beyonce's husband. That's what it was. That was it, you felt that was like a really clever thing to say.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Books is Dumb is there. And of course, obviously, Give Me Your Napoleon. My goodness. And that's a good looking shirt too. Oh, and
Tommy in New Hampshire points out in the chat, by the way, that you could save a ton of time on show prep if you switch to the real computer.
I know. I think I will do that. I think I will do that. Well, though, yeah, yes, I will do that. I have used it for a whole bunch of stuff, and it's like a night and day. It's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, because those computers are like from 2013.
These are from 2013. I was just like trying to like drive this into the ground first before I did it, but it's you're right about that. We were trying to use it for video first, but then
that had some logistical hang-ups, but you should use them, and I don't like using a Mac, so you should use it.
Yeah, I'll grab it, and then I'll just wipe out one of these ones, and I won't wipe it out. I'll just give it to one of the kids.
Or a Burn Barrel T-shirt or something.
Yes.
Any ideas towards merch?
Oh, this is.
Yeah, we should refresh the merch store. Maybe we'll do that this weekend.
I've got a whole list of stuff for you to do
weekend.
once you have the baby, including you are going to be graphic designing like nobody's business, Alice.
Okay.
Nobody's business.
I think I'm not technically allowed to work during my maternity leave because
at Burn Barrel Productions there is no maternity leave.
Well, but I'm not allowed to work during my maternity leave. Or I could, because if I do any other job during my maternity leave, I could lose my.
You're going to be wearing a burqa. Nobody will know who it is, Alice. BBP.
Okay. Burn Barrel Podcast.
Blumpkin.
Okay.
Isn't that some kind of sexual act with a kidney punch?
I don't think so.
Is it not? 429.
I actually feel bad for you, Tom. I know that when you joined Telegram, you're just looking for food channels to follow, and little did you know when you search for hummus, you would get Hamas.
True.
Dude, seriously, everything I have, every message I've gotten during this thing is people celebrating like missile attacks on Tel Aviv, and like when it says that Israelis have killed Hamas people, there's like sad faces and like down. I have the Hamas channel right here. Sorry, I think I mistakenly become a member. Actually.
You've joined.
Yeah, which would make me huge on college campuses.
All the atrocities. Hey, just want to warn you.
Yes.
Blumpkin.
Yeah.
It's not a form of pumpkin. Just telling you up front.
That's why I said that. I said I believe it's some kind of.
I don't know what it is, but
I believe it's some kind of. It's a sick.
I'm glad I don't know what it is. Okay, we can leave.
I don't
alone.
trust you one damn bit.
I don't.
Speaking of, Tufts University.
That's not true.
2011. You sure knew what it was. I'm just saying.
It's not true.
Just
I didn't
saying.
even. That's not accurate in several ways. But whatever. I'm not gonna be right now. If you want to join us for live streams and the live chat, as well as get some extra content each week, you can do that at patreon.com.
Hold on. I might have to clean that up. Let me
Wait.
just see. Let me see.
Clean what up?
Let's look and see what that is exactly. It's when you get a. Oh, okay.
Do I want to know what it is?
Okay, it's nowhere near as violent as I thought it was. Okay. Oh, it doesn't seem
I don't want to know.
great.
Okay.
It's multitasking in the bathroom is what it is. It doesn't seem great. Wee.
Okay. Anyway, you can do that at patreon.com/burnbarrel. Many thanks to those of you who do that and join on Patreon and support the show that way. Of course, the show is also free at burnbarrelpodcast.com. All the places to listen. There's also a merch shop there.